Hey everyone, so today we're going to be taking a look at kick drum sound design on the Electron Syntakt. So the purpose of today's video is that I wanted to share the techniques and tips that I learned along the way creating over 100 kick drums, and 75 of those ended up in a Syntakt kick pack, which is actually available in the video description below if you don't want to design 75 of your own kick drums. So the kick drums basically cover a wide range of different styles, including deep, punchy, snappy, long, modulated, hard, and digital kicks as well. So there was a lot of different tips that I learned along the way, and I've just basically learned a lot, and I thought it'd be great to do a video and show you how I made the kicks. So let's just get stuck in. So today we're not going to be using a top-down camera looking at the Electron Syntakt. I'm just going to use Overbridge because this is actually what I used when creating the pack, and actually it was so much easier to have everything on the screen, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to do it this way when creating a bunch of presets because it's a very grueling process and it takes a lot of back and forth between different pages. So if you're creating a lot of presets in a session, I'd say use Overbridge. It's just so much easier. When writing tracks, I actually like to just get stuck in with the hardware. It's a little bit more cumbersome jumping around in certain ways, but then so is Overbridge as well in other ways. So both have their strengths, and I don't use Overbridge that often, but in this case it's been a lifesaver. It would have took me a lot longer to create these presets on the hardware. So let's get stuck in, and what I'm going to do to start is basically just show you some kicks that I've made. So if we go to track 9 and take a look at some of these, let's start with the deep kicks. I'll just play a few from each. If you want to listen to the sound demos of some of these kicks, you can go onto my website on the sales page and just take a look at the player. So you can see these deep ones, really nice, kind of like softish, but still with a bit of grit. Great for like house, minimal, deep house. Then we've got punch, which is similar to deep, but obviously a lot more knock and a lot more top end. So some of these are very upfront, great for techno. And then we've got snap. So a little bit more underwhelming, these ones, but they do serve a purpose. They're basically mimicking your kind of like Roland 707 kick, that kind of like disco-y kick. This one especially sounds like that. So very thin kicks, lot of top end, a little bit of punch, not as much low end. Snap, I personally won't use them that much in the kind of music that I make, but I wanted to include them. Long ones, great, just techno long kicks, but then we've also got modulated as well. So modulated is the same kind of thing, but those rolling LFO sub kicks. So these are great. Let's have a listen to just a few more of those. Modulated. That's quite cool, that one. It's got a bit of a bounce to it. That one's a bit flabby. I thought that was just like a nice little Easter egg one. And then we've also got hard as well. So these ones are pretty abrasive. For most people, unusable unless you're making like really hard genres. This one, you can see the frequency is like right open. So they're a lot more abrasive, a lot more up front. If you've got a busy mix, these will absolutely just slam through. So obviously like hard house, hard electro, hard techno kind of styles. And then if we just switch over to the digital track, so on track 1, let's just have a listen to some of these. I was quite surprised actually. I normally make analog kick drums when I'm on the Syntakt, but I was pleasantly surprised at how good the digital kick drum is. It's just a lot more controlled, and I found it a lot easier to sculpt like a right nice clean kick using the digital machine. And I found that the filtering and the distortion was like a little bit kind of cleaner as well. So if you want like more controlled kicks, these ones are great. That kind of reminds me of the Battering Ram by Shakmat, which I've got down here, which is a digital kick as well. So some really nice ones in here actually. Just listen to this one. Let's just stop this now and go back to track 9, and we'll make some analog kick drums. So what I might do is, instead of trying to create like 7 different kick drums in different styles, I might just start with like 1 kick drum, and then I'll show you how we can get to different styles just using the parameters available on the screen. And hopefully by the end of this session, you will kind of understand what it takes to make a kick drum work in a really nice way, as opposed to just choosing a machine, tweaking some of the same parameters and hoping for the best. You need to basically dial in the multi-mode filter and the filter envelope and the amp envelope, sorry, and also some LFO sometimes as well. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So what I'm going to do first is just clear this, and we'll just start with, let's go for bass drum sharp to start with. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to -7 on the tuning. You don't have to do that. This is just what I did for the pack, to put the kick drum in the key of F. So all of the kick drums are in the key of F, and you might have noticed that as I was flicking through them. The main reason is that I didn't want to create a pack where you've got kick drums in all different keys, and then you're constantly trying to figure out what key it's in and then trying to change it. I just thought key of F, I know it's not in C, but F is in kind of like the middle of the kick drum range that I like to work in. I like to go as low as like D sharp or D, and I like to go as high as maybe G sharp or A sharp. So you can basically start on F, and then if you want to notch it down a couple of semitones or up a couple of semitones, it's easy to do so. Also, you'll notice I'm not on a preset at the minute, but I also brought up the filter key track as well. So when we're sculpting the filter, that basically means that if we change the note parameter on the trig page, the settings that we've got for the frequency cutoff will shift up as well. And that means that we're not losing anything when we change the note, because all the frequencies are going to change. So if the filter doesn't change with it, then we lose all of the fine-tuned tweaking that we've done with the filter. So yeah, I made sure that the filter key track was up, and then also the tuning was -7 to put it in the key of F. Let's get started. What I'm going to do to start with is just use the standard bass drum sharp synth settings. We're just going to leave them there for now. And what we're going to do to start with is tweak the frequency. So let's add a bit of resonance. So to start with, we're going to create a deep kick. And you can hear, just by bringing that down and adjusting the frequency, we can create a start point for the very start, the bottom end of the kick. And we'll come back down to this as well. So basically we'll open it up using envelope depth, and then we'll bring it back down. And I found actually when creating these with the filter key track up, around 12 for a deep kick gives you that really nice kind of nice knocky low sub end. And then you adjust this to taste. And then what we're going to do next is add in a bit of envelope depth. So you'll notice as we bring the envelope depth up, we can add more knockiness in there. Or if we go right up, it brings that click in. But what we also need to do is change the decay amount. So you can see here we've got this decay. Whoops. Now for knocky kicks, I find that anything below, deep kicks, anything below 24 is great. And if you want to go really clicky, you can bring the envelope depth right up and just shorten that decay amount. But what I'm going to do is go for around 20, maybe around there. That's quite nice. So I've actually, in my head now, I've got all these different numbers from doing so many kicks. I've got all these different numbers of where the sweet spots are. So I'll share them with you as we go. So kind of like 12 for the frequency, envelope depth, somewhere around 15 to maybe like 26 or something. You can tweak it around that range. I'm going to go for there. If you want to add a bit more body in there, so this filter is obviously opening and then it's closing back down and returning to this point. If you want the filter to open and return to a different point, you can use sustain. So you can hear how that adds a little bit more body in there. Or if you want it deeper, bring the sustain down. Let's go for that. What I'm going to do next is just bring a bit of overdrive in. Obviously, as I bring that up, the resonance becomes a little bit too much, so we can bring that down a bit. And this is what I mean by tweaking. So you can see I'm going back to the synth page, then back to the filter page, back to the synth page, and it's going back and forth between the different parameters, which helps you kind of fine tune it. Let's make our deep kick with a little bit more top end like that. And then we'll start to mess with the parameters as well. So we've got decay time. Obviously make it boomier, longer. Can make it short, snappy. What I want to do is kind of add a little bit of that low end in there. I like that. And then hold time is basically the very, very start of the kick. It's kind of like if you go to this envelope here. Actually, it's not on this one, is it? So yeah, you've got hold there actually. So that's the hold there. Then if I go to decay, you can see the hold is this bit. And then on a ADSR envelope like that with a bit of hold in, you would have another point there, and that would be the hold. So it's basically just that for the kick drum. Let's just put that back on infinite for now. We'll come to this later. So what I'm going to do is just mess with that. Around there is quite nice. Tick level, obviously the filter's not all the way open, but you can hear just a little bit more presence as I bring that up. So if we go between 0 and 127, you can hear it's got a little bit more kind of click to it. So let's just dial that in. Sweep depth, so this is just like we've got this envelope depth here for the filter, we've also got the sweep depth. And the sweep depth basically opens and closes the tuning. So if we open the sweep time, you can hear that it's rising up and down. You can even see it on the tuner there in Ableton. We're pushing the oscillator tuning up and then back down again. So sweep time is like a decay for it. That's quite nice. And then we can decide how much depth we want to add to the opening and closing of the tuning. So if we bring it right down, you'll see it just stays on F. But if we bring it up, you can hear it going up in pitch. The higher you go, the more kind of like presence and knock you will get. So just like the resonance, if that's all the way up, it adds a little bit too much of that kind of like knocky low mids. And the same with the sweep time as well. Too much, it's very present, which is nice for some tracks, but you might want to kind of rein that in a little bit. And by doing that, it might enable us to push that resonance a little bit more if we need to. That's nice. See how just a little kind of like tweak here and there will completely, not completely, but it will change the kick and make it feel different. And also when you're designing kicks like this, it's always good to kind of like bring in some hats and just see how it feels as well. Just turn them down a bit. Because you can try it like with a bit more decay like that. Maybe a bit more knock. So for this track, actually, with that little synth run in, a bit more knock works. So it's always good to test it with other things. Maybe without those in, maybe you've made a really nice deep kick like that and you're like, oh, actually that sounds really good. But then when you bring your synth in, it's a little bit too buried. Let me just turn the Syntakt down because that is way too loud. So yeah, you might just want to like kind of bring that up a little bit like that. Just turn that synth off. That's pretty much it for a deep kick. Now let's take a look at what we'd... Actually, before we move on, let's just quickly cover the amp envelope. So for most of these kicks, I just left it on this one, which is attack, hold, and decay. And then what I'll do is take infinite off. And it just allows you to tighten up that kick a little bit more if needs be. So maybe you want like a really sharp transient beginning and a bit more of a softer decay. That that's the difference. So you've got it there, and you can bring that right down. Also, if you do this with the amp, it allows you to bring up that decay time a bit more if you need to. Also, when you bring that up, you can hear that click at the beginning. So there's two options to get rid of that. In fact, let me just go back a little bit and explain why we're getting a click. It's because we've got this like long bass note, and then when the kick hits again, it's cutting the waveform off and it's creating a click. So two options. Basically just add a bit of attack like that, soften it, or sometimes taking reset off works with the long electro kicks, long techno kicks I did, but for this some reason it's not working. So yeah, in this case, just do that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for creating a deep kick. Obviously, then you can go on to changing the machine. So we could go to say like hard. We could try messing like this. Obviously, let's put that into -7. Maybe actually what we'll do is we'll use bass drum hard to create a punchy kick. So what we're going to do for this is bring that right up. And just add in a bit more of an open decay. We'll make it a bit punchy and give it more body. And then what we could do is we're kind of there with that. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at the synth machine and just tweak some of the parameters on here. Actually, I like this this waveform here over the sine. So snap works really well because you can hear it's quite flabby when you bring that down, but if you bring the snap up, we're getting that kind of top end punch coming through now. Sweep time. This is quite punchy, but that's very, very punchy. That's a sweet spot right there. Obviously add this to taste. You can make it quite a lot softer, or you can bring it right up. And we can afford to bring that resonance down now because it's a little bit too much on the ears, so we just bring that down. That's quite nice. See how just a little tiny adjustment can massively change the kick. So I kind of like that there. And then let's just tighten stuff up. Listen to the difference actually. So we've got the filter obviously down at 12. If we open that filter up now, just listen to the difference in the kick, and this is why using the filter is just so important when designing kicks. So listen to this now. That's what most people do on the Syntakt, because when I've heard demos, you just choose a kick drum synth machine and you're like, yeah, that's my kick sorted. I don't need to use a filter because that's basically for synths. When it's just so wrong. You really need to dial this in. Like, the difference is huge. And then let's just finish off by adjusting the amp envelope. So bringing the attack back will actually now bring us more click. Or we can soften that. I'm gonna go for 8. That's pretty much it for that. Let's take a look at using a different machine, because there's a little trick that I want to show you using an LFO. I can't remember which machine it was that I was using before that didn't have much click in it. Let's have a quick look. Let's try silky. Yeah, this could work for us, right? So let's just dial this in a bit more. In fact, what I'm going to do is look for a kick drum where I've used the technique that I'm about to show you. It'll make it a lot easier. Let's go and have a look at the punch ones. So synth tuning, did I do it? Yeah, I've done it on this one, right? Let's just, not as prominent on that one though. There we go, this one's perfect, right? So this punch kick drum, the way that I had it set up, oh yeah, it's using bass drum silky, right? The way that I had it set up, I dialed everything in and I was like, it sounds nice. I like the punchiness of it and the tonality of it. And it's quite unique sounding, but it didn't have enough click. So then the way that I basically fixed that is by adding an LFO. So what you do is you set this to 1. So it just means every time that kick drum hits, you just get 1 LFO shot like this. If you put it on 3 or trig, you can see it's going round and round and round. What we want to do is put it on 1. And I'm not using saw down. I'm using this one, which is sharper. It's kind of like, looks a bit like an amp envelope like this. And what I wanted to do was send that to synth tuning. And basically what I'm doing is opening and closing the oscillator tuning, just like you do with sweep time and sweep depth. But what I'm actually doing is creating an extra one, which has a shorter sweep time. And it actually opens up the tuning a little bit extra. So this sweep time is doing this like really nice kind of like slower movement of the oscillator tuning, and then this LFO is adding that very, very sharp click at the beginning. So I'll show you how this works. So you can see I've got multiplier on 256 and the speed is quite low at the minute. And if you bring the depth amount up, you can hear a really nice click. And then what you can do is you can basically change the speed of this. Going higher up will give you a tighter kick, a tighter click. Bringing it down, so you can really hear that now, right? So you've got 2 options there. You can basically add the depth amount of how high you want the oscillator to tune upwards, and then the speed will allow you to kind of open and close the decay. So I thought it was just like a really good trick, and it helps me out with a lot of the kick drums that were suffering from a lack of top end click that wasn't available in the synth, because I've already used some of the settings or it just didn't work. Like this VCO click just wasn't doing anything for it, whereas this really, really worked. And then let's just take a look. Seeing as we're on the LFO, let's go to the sound browser. I'll just choose another one. Instead of me recreating this, let's just take a look at one of the modulated kick drums. Yeah, I'll use one of the... Let's use this one. Right, so the techniques are very similar to what I've already shown you, using the shaping settings. So I'm using plastic for this one with a little bit of modulation level. And we've got these LFOs at the bottom. So this first one, let me just reset these, actually. So that's reset, that's just the kick drum, bass drum plastic with some settings here. And then what I've done is this first LFO, it's basically opening and closing the tuning, 2 different points, creating this like step like this. But then if I went -1, just creates a very subtle semitone difference. And then LFO 2, if I just reset this one, I've got this on a triangle waveform. And that allows me to kind of just bump up and down the waveform like this. And I can change that waveform. And the speed as well, if I change this. That works really, really nicely. So with some of these presets that I've made as well, you can actually just go in there and tweak some of the settings and get different variations of it as well. Let's look at the sound browser again and just see if I've got any other techno ones that I've got some cool stuff going on. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about was the fade as well. So if we take a look at this one, if I take the fade off, it's really messing with like the start of the kick and the punch of it as well. So with a little bit of fade in there, you keep the beginning of the kick intact and it allows the LFO to come in a little bit later. Let's just go through a few others. So if we go to sound browser and I choose another kick, techno one, let's have a listen to some of these again. So you can see this one, this is a good one to talk about. So we've got the synth tuning, doing that kind of like down motion, a little bit of fade there. And then if we go to LFO 2, oh yeah, also worth noting as well, I didn't mention this earlier, but you can see that we've got it set to trig, not 1. 1 is useful because you can just do 1 like that, but trig allows you to kind of rotate it in time as well. 3, if you keep stopping and starting, the sequence set will be off every time. And then the thing I wanted to talk about is LFO 2. So we've got filter frequency as the destination this time. So if we turn that down, not adding too much, but it gives you this option to add a bit more movement in the filter. And then we've also got a fade on there as well, because again, it really messes with the start of the kick. So you can basically bump this up. That sounds nice. This is what I'm saying. So you can use my presets and then just tweak them to get to a different place. If you bang one of these kicks into your tracks and you're like, oh, it sounds good, but it's just not quite working with what I've got going on, you can just move a couple of bits and dampen stuff or open stuff up, or change like one of the LFOs, add a bit more drive in there, or soften it. More click. Yeah, there's loads of different ways you can kind of twist them. What else can we talk about then? So I know we're coming up to half an hour now, so hopefully I've put quite a lot in already that you can use. Let me have a think. So we've covered the analog multimode filter. We've covered, oh yeah, so if we just take a look at, say, like the hard kicks. I was saying before about how these are more open, so with these ones we're not using as much kind of like low filter frequency and opening it up softly. We're just banging these open with a lot of overdrive as well. Let's go back down. So long kicks, they're basically just the same as the modulated ones in a way, but then we're not using the LFO to basically move the pitch around. You can see I'm using that trick again here. Allows me to add more click in there. And I think that's pretty much it for now. The other thing I wanted to just quickly talk about is the synth drum stuff as well, like obviously all of these different synth drums have different elements to them. So like with this one, you can see it actually does have a transient in there, the classic. So with the classic, you can turn up that like tick amount, or you can use one of these. A lot of them you can change the waveform, which will give you a kind of like a different body sound. And then we've got things like FM as well. Let's see if we can find one that's using FM. So plastic's cool because it's got a very unique sound to it using this modulation level here. So I can see I didn't use on these ones. I didn't use FM as much. I'm sure I used it though on a couple. Let me just have a look. Okay, we've got an FM one here, so you can see if we turn the FM down, it just adds a bit more grit in there, and it can sound really weird. But with a little bit of tweaking, you can kind of use it and add just something a little bit extra into the kick drum. It's great for creating synths with. Sometimes I use different machines for creating different instruments. Like, I should have done that with this pack. Maybe I'll do another one. Use some of the other machines that are not kick drums to create a kick drum and see what result that gives me. I've done that the other way around. So I've used like drum machines to basically create synths, and I get some really cool results doing that, especially if you use like the bass drums to create basses. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you are interested in grabbing the pack, saving yourself a lot of time, you can basically use the link in the video description below. Go and purchase the pack and install it into your Syntakt. If you want to go deep with me and learn more about how to use the Syntakt or even other machines like the Digitax 2 and the Typhon and the Hydrasynth, I have a bunch of courses on my website. If you sign up to my newsletter, I often offer discounts as well. So if you want to sign up using the link, just click that below as well. I also have a course coming up very soon, so I'm just going to start filming that this week. That's going to be a multi-machine course where I basically take you from start to finish of making a track. That will be from actually designing every sound from the ground up, creating patterns, processing them in the machine, but then also processing them maybe with external gear, recording it into Ableton, using a load of creative effects in Ableton to take the ideas even further, mixing everything down in Ableton and arranging it, and just completing a whole track and possibly even publishing it, because I want to put my heart and soul into this as well. I want to show you my whole process from start to finish, because I know it causes a lot of confusion for a lot of people. A lot of people get really good at the machines, then like, well, how do I record this into Ableton? Or they're really good at arranging and creating an idea, but they're not good at mixing it down. What I want to do is cover all bases and take all of the things that I've learned over the years and show you the initial idea to the finished product, and all of the kind of head fucks along the way, all of the annoyances and backtracking and undoing stuff and then redoing it and showing you how to fix problems. So I'm going to take you through the whole thing, and it's going to be a massive insight. It's going to be great. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm a bit anxious to create because it's such a big idea and a big project to make, but I do feel like it will have so much value and it'll be very, very useful. I'm going to basically create the course that I wish someone gave me 10 to 15 years ago. So my name's James Orvis, and we've now changed the name to Synth Hackers from Mix Hackers. So a little bit confusing. I apologize for that. But Mix Hackers is going to be a different channel, just basically covering mixing only. And this channel is going to be basically covering what we've been covering already, which is all synthesis and using machines. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.